the ways they go about selecting candidates and interviewing. And I'd like to ask those of you on the school side, what changes you have seen with respect to how employers are selecting candidates, how they're interviewing them, how offers are being extended. Are you seeing an increase in this behavioral interviewing process? And have any of your students been asked to take these external assessments? And how are they reacting? If so, how are they reacting to those? How are they adjusting to these changes in the ways that employers are going about their process of selecting and interviewing? So, Rob, I'd like to start with you, if you don't mind.
I was interested to hear Jennifer's talking about her firm's use of behavioral interviewing and personality assessments, because we're not seeing much of that at William & Mary, and I thought maybe it was because I'm in the hinterlands of Colonial Williamsburg, and so I reached out to some of my colleagues at other law schools across the country who said the same thing, that they have not seen, we have not seen a groundswell of a switch to different types of interviewing, certainly at least at the initial stage. We don't know with the same kind of regularity what goes on at the in-office stage. We're seeing still pretty much, at least with respect to mid-size and large urban corporate law firms, still a reliance on the tried and, when I say tried and true, I use that term in quotes, but reliance on the traditional criteria of law school academic performance. And if anything, over the last couple of years, we've seen that ratcheted up even more, that the bar is becoming even higher in terms of the GPA and class rank criteria that are being used. We permit full pre-screening at William & Mary. We don't use a lottery system, so employers have access to that full range of academic performance measures when they're making their selections. But we just really haven't seen that. There have been isolated circumstances where students have reported that to us, or where employers have said that they're using that. But I really think to describe it as isolated and sporadic is probably the most accurate description. We've heard of, in addition to the behavioral interviewing and the personality inventories, we've heard a few reports of that anecdotally. We've heard reports of writing exercises being given at the in-office stage. We've heard of students being given some information and saying that they have a half an hour to put together a client pitch. But again, those really have been pretty isolated and certainly not the norm. Hypos are still being used pretty regularly with prosecutors and public defenders and some government agencies, but again, we're not seeing or hearing much of that from the private sector. Now, having said that, I don't mean to suggest there's a dichotomy between law school academic performance and the predictors of success that all of you are talking about. Certainly somebody who's distinguished him or herself by strong academic performance in law school certainly will have many of the criteria that you're looking for, but I guess we haven't seen that across